Good morning. I'm Heather Guerin Rice. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm serving as your worship associate today. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this progressive spiritual community where we come together to nourish the spirit, connect in love, and act for justice. At UUCL, as we like to refer to ourselves, love is our only doctrine, and service and justice are our most sacred prayers. So we pray by striving to live lives in words and deeds that affirm that Black lives matter. And our doctrine of love has moved us to affirm for decades that love is divine and love is what makes a family. This Unitarian Universalist congregation is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We are not here because we figured out life's questions or because we think we've got it right. We welcome all of you to our service, especially those of you who are searching for a spiritual home. Many of us were once too seeking for something larger than ourselves to which we could belong. A sense of rootedness to hold us as we create meaning together. We do that here, though not perfectly. In this congregation, we strive not for perfection, but for authenticity and connection. So whether it's your first time here with us or your 100th time, we hope that you'll find questions here that stretch you, people to befriend you, and progressive spiritual values that challenge you to join us in loving boldly, living justly, and welcoming radically. I now invite you to enter into sacred space as I light the chalice, beloved symbol of our Unitarian Universalist heritage, with these by Deborah Falk. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundation of freedom, reason, and tolerance. A faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that visions a world flourishing with equality for all her people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all this within each of us.
Good morning. Welcome to this sacred space. Please take an opportunity as you are comfortable to put your camera on, put yourself in gallery view, and say hello before we dip back into the rest.
We are gathered in the spirit, our bodies are apart, filled with joy and touched with wonder, separate hands but mingled hearts, giving thanks and singing praises for the love that calls us on from our many different places. We are gathered into one. We are gathered in our sorrow. We are gathered in our fear, in our pain and in our worry, in our anger and our tears, as we tend to one another with our gifts and with our care. Our community is strengthened through the faith and hope we share. We are gathered in commitment to a planet that is home, works of justice, acts of kindness,
Good morning. I am Elizabeth Haralam Shuba, the affiliate community minister of this congregation, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm also short, sallow-skinned, big personalitied, mother, married, queer, people lover, seeker of solitude, contemplative, quick-witted, harsh, privileged, othered, irreverent, seeker of the sacred, type A, and messy. I could go on, but these are the labels I choose for myself this morning. And with the exception of mother, I don't find one of them to be more important than the other. And as I look at this list, some of them even seem to contradict each other. That's the thing about labels. Without context, we don't know how they weave together to form the tapestry of a person. Hearing the ways that we self-identify doesn't really help you know me any better. That comes from building relationship, from learning my story. And relationship asks us to make a covenant, to risk some vulnerability, to suspend our reflex to put people in boxes, rather to allow the space to learn which boxes they choose for themselves, if they choose any. When we make assumptions about each other, we steal the ability to invite each other into our story. This willingness to be vulnerable opens us up to the possibility of making mistakes. I hate making mistakes. To hurt feelings, and to choose to continue to know each other more deeply over time anyway. If we see beloved relationship in these terms of both and, maybe we can let go of our need to be perfect. Being relational is messy and beautiful. It's energizing and exhausting. It's also inherently you. But back to labels. The need to make rash assumptions about our environment is probably linked to a historical need, one which evolution has made unnecessary. We used to have to quickly determine elements of danger. Our lives depended on it. Many of us, myself included, haven't really been in danger from another human in our whole life. Yet our brains are still wired for lightning fast assessments. What if our first impressions have more to do with ourself than the one making the impression? What I mean by that is, what if we make assumptions about others to make ourselves more comfortable? Is there a way to slow down our brains? Maybe we can add an internal commentary which allows us to pause and take stock of the things which are informed by past experience. Pause long enough to ask ourselves, what have we assumed of a person based on what we see? Thoughts and assumptions have not yet been proven, but where information has nonetheless filled the gaps. We spent the last couple of weeks engaging with the idea of radical hospitality. And I believe that inherent in this paradigm is a willingness to remain curious long past the point of comfortability. For any of us who've experienced growth, we know it gets uncomfortable first. And I think the most radical thing we can do is love each other through the messiest and most uncomfortable parts of life. I often see our UU mission in the world as a catalyst for discomfort. I think of myself as a stone in the shoe of white supremacy and look for ways that I can irritate a system enough that it creates ripples of change. As a community minister whose context is hospital chaplaincy, I observe the role that labels play on patients all the time. I can't look at my own electronic medical record without the possibility of being fired, so I don't know what the labels the system places on me are. But seeing how the system labels the patients I minister to and witnessing the ways in which patients self-identify, I am acutely aware of the gaps. I spend a great deal of time on the oncology unit in the hospital. This is also where patients who are having sickle cell anemia flares are often admitted. And I don't want to dumb down to you, but I just want to make sure nobody knows, or that I can provide some insight. Sickle cell is a hereditary red blood cell disorder. The cells are crescent or sickle shaped instead of round, and they build up in the system, causing pain because the organs are not getting the oxygen that they need. People of African descent make up 90% of sickle cell patients in the US. And many patients are diagnosed at a young age and know their bodies very well by the time they are admitted as adults. And they are fierce advocates because they want to get better quickly and return to their life, and they know what works. The system is wary of patients who self-advocate, especially when it pertains to pain. And when I say system, I don't mean my hospital. I mean medicine in a larger sense. So last week, a consult was placed for a patient with sickle cell. And when I looked in their chart, I saw this bright orange behavior alert banner had been placed. And I'm not certain who has the power to enter these banners into the charts of patients, but it's experiential, not diagnostic. It's a tool meant to help protect patient-facing staff. This patient's nurse was outside the room and advised me that the patient was demanding, overused the call bell, and that they were emotionally closed off and short-tempered. Labels, labels, labels. How could I serve this patient's distress if I allowed myself to create their story based on the writing of others? So I took a deep breath. I recalled our UU aspiration to seek the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And I walked into the room, sat down right next to the bed, as I usually do. And after some pleasantries, I asked the patient how it must be to live with a chronic disease that no one can see. I invited them to share their story, and they shared openly with me, weeping often. They shared their experience of having a chronic disease that has few external symptoms and how it has affected their relationships, how they often minimize their pain to avoid seeming dramatic, to avoid coming into the hospital. Labels. I found them to be sensitive, contemplative, lonely, disconnected from community, and worth every ounce of my compassion. I allowed space for them to share the ways that they self-identify. I didn't do anything magical. I just remained curious. My deep yearning for this community, my beloved community, is that we too continue in our willingness to let go of what we're sure about, each other, the world. It's scary and powerful. My greatest hope is that we all strive to be a stone in the shoe of injustice. May it be so. Blessed be. Ashe and Shalom.
When we gather on Sundays, we bring our whole selves with us. Joys, sorrows, and those complex truths that are bigger than joys or sorrows. We share them with our community, with this gathered community, because we need somebody to celebrate with us, because we need a hug, because we need to let somebody know what's going on with us. So I invite you to share in the chat in 15 words or less what is on your heart today. And first, because I'm going to guess that it's on everybody's heart, is the conflict in the Ukraine and all the feelings that it's invoking in all of us, and how painful it is to watch other people, even though they're across the world from us. If you would like to share your name, please write from and your name. If you don't want us to name you, then just write your joy or concern in 15 words or less. And one last stone for those joys, sorrows, and complex truths that are on our hearts, and yet we're not able to give voice.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
A short reading from an unknown author. One tree can start a forest. One bird can herald spring. One smile can begin a friendship. One hand can lift a soul. One star can guide a ship at sea. One word can frame the goal. One vote can change a nation. One sunbeam can light a room. One candle can wipe out darkness. One laugh can conquer gloom. One hope can raise our spirits. One touch can show you care. One voice can wake up everybody. And one life can make the difference. In last week's service, Reverend Susan Frederick Ray, our UUA president, asked us to lean in. And I've been thinking about that a lot in the days since. I've been wondering what leaning in looks like for me. And I returned to the subject of curiosity. And on this subject, I found myself wondering about all the complex reasons why the violence in the Ukraine has captured the attention of the media and so many people I have encountered over the weeks since it began. One of my colleagues even mentioned it at staff meeting. Did you know that there has been prolonged violent civil unrest in Nigeria? I bring this specific part of the world up because in January of this year, there were attacks by militiamen on civilians, resulting in hundreds of fatalities. And nothing was said at staff meeting that week, even though we have a Nigerian colleague who was present for these same staff meetings. And I bring this up not to make anybody feel badly about the focus of their compassion. Instead, I'm called back to the work that we've been doing together in the reading of Widening the Circle of Concern. And I've asked myself to lean into the work of widening that circle. And it brought to mind the words of Yoko Ono, which I hope to more deeply embody. Think peace, act peace, spread peace, imagine peace. I don't know about you, but Sunday morning before I join the Zoom for worship, I often think about what joy or sorrow I want the community to hold with me. And it's usually topical for the week or something which has affected me personally. Heather, would you please bring back our communal well of complex truths? I'd like to place a stone for all of the complexity for my friend and colleague Aji and his family still living in Nigeria. Many Nigerians have fled their country and are now stranded at the borders of Ukraine. And I pledge to lean in into being curious about the lives of those around me. I wonder if this reflection stirs anything in you, and in what ways you seek to lean in. And I'd like to invite anyone who's interested to use the chat to share a stone in the same fashion that we do weekly.
I did a little research knowing what we were talking about this morning because I found myself very, very ignorant and found that since 2000, there was a second war in Congo. There was a Syrian civil war, the conflict in Darfur, a conflict in Burundi, and a Chad rebellion, among others.
A stone for the Afghanis. A stone for victims of natural disasters, like the Kentucky tornadoes. I pray for equal awareness and coverage of wars and violence everywhere, and that we in the US stop killing untried citizens in our terroristic war against terror. A stone for all of the refugees in Lancaster that come from around the world to our little city. May they experience peace and welcome. For the Uyghur Muslims in China. I'd like to place one for the Native Canadians fighting for their land and their home. For the Bhutan refugees in Lancaster who cannot return home. I recently asked a waiter in a restaurant if he had been back, not knowing. The Russian athletes unable to go to World Games. For the Russians that are forced to live under Putin. A stone for Asian and Asian Americans experiencing violence during COVID. For Aung San Suu Kyi and the Burmese people. For our environment, Mother Nature needs our attention, restoration, and protection. For those who don't have the means to fight back and must live with oppression. For Megan and her home. To make tough decisions for the world and for the Tongan people trying to recover from the volcano. For the Mediterranean boat people watching the contract between their reception and that of Ukraine. for the people of Haiti.
A stone for those who have no voices, to let us know that we should be keeping them in our thoughts and are powerless to have voice. For the Taiwanese people who must be scared. Thank you all for sharing.
We now take an offering as an outward expression of our interdependence. You can support our work as you are able by texting the amount of your donation to the number on the screen or through the Give tab on our website at uuclonline.org. Our Share the Plate partner this week is Acorn Acres Wildlife Rehabilitation. Thank you.
Oh, love, I pray that you break my heart so wide open that the whole world falls in. I confess I've been trying so hard to keep it all out, keep it all out. So love, I pray that you break my heart so wide open that the whole world falls in. I give up trying so hard to keep it all out, keep it all out. So love, fill me, breathe me to pieces. Love, I pray that you break my heart so wide open that the whole world falls in. If I'm made for love, make me strong enough. And when I need to hide, love, hold me in your grace until I feel safe. Then love, fill me, breathe me to pieces. Love, come fall into my heart, it's wide open. Doves fly out and doves come home, here to rest in my heart. is wide open. Heart is wide open. My heart is wide open. Heart is wide open. My heart is wide open. Fill me. Breathe me to peace. Heart is wide open. My heart, fill me. Breathe me to peace. Heart is wide open. My heart is when I need to hide. Love, hold me in your grace. Heart is wide open. My heart is when I need to hide. Love, hold me in your grace. Breathe me to peace when I need to hide. Love, hold me in your grace. Heart is wide open. My heart is when I need to hide. Love, hold me in your grace. Heart is wide open. Sweet love, I pray that you break my heart so wide open that the whole world falls in.
There is too much hardship in this world to not find joy every day. There is too much injustice in this world to not right the balance every day. There is too much pain in this world to not heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of divine presence every day.